Senator Murkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And Attorney General Holder, welcome. Thank you
Morning.
for your leadership. Good morning. I'm going to change the subject a little bit here. I would like to bring up with you the issue of Mr. Bill Allen, a name that I am sure you are familiar from Alaska. For the benefit of my colleagues, Mr. Allen pled guilty in 2007 to multiple federal offenses, including bribery and extortion. He subsequently became a key witness for the Justice Department in the trials of late Senator Ted Stevens and several Alaska legislators. Mr. Allen's presently serving time at the Federal Corrections Institute in California. Back in 2008, the Anchorage Police Department received information that Allen had paid a young Alaska Native woman for sex. She was 15 years old at the time. The young woman then later moved to Seattle, and he sought to continue that relationship. We learned, the law enforcement folks learned that Allen had transported this young woman between Seattle and Anchorage with the intent to engage in prostitution on multiple occasions. The Anchorage Police Department brought in the FBI. The case was presented to the Child Exploitation and Obscenity section for prosecution. We understand that there were multiple trips with the trial attorney from Washington, D.C. to Alaska to work with our law enforcement. We later learned that the trial attorney, as well as the section chief, had recommended that the case be presented to the grand jury, and yet Mr. Allen has never been charged with these crimes. It was reported that the charges were never presented to the grand jury, and it appears that the Justice Department simply declined prosecution. I wrote you expressing my concerns back in August, and I received a reply from your Assistant Attorney General, Mr. Welch, back in October. I think you knew that I was not satisfied with Mr. Welch's response to my concern, and Alaskans were certainly not satisfied with the response. I have indicated to Alaskans that I would follow up directly with you. So at this time, I would ask you, Mr. Attorney General, if you can explain as specifically as you can why the Justice Department did not pursue an indictment against Mr. Allen on these charges, and if you could specifically address the proposition that the Justice Department did not prosecute him on the sex abuse charge on account of his cooperation in other cases.
Well, with regard to the exploitation matter, I'd say the department certainly has a very good record of vigorously investigating and trying these kinds of matters. I was just looking at the numbers here. We have about 4,000 of these offenders who within the last 3 years, we have investigated. Our caseload in that regard is up over about 1,000% since fiscal year 2001. So we are vigorous in our prosecution of those cases. In making the determination as to what happens in any particular case, we're guided by the principles of federal prosecution, and we take into consideration a number of factors, among them being the age of the case, the reliability of the witnesses, the ability to say that we have a better than 50% chance of winning a case. Decisions to decline prosecutions or not go forward with cases are made strictly on that basis, not with regard to political persuasion or the role somebody has played. If a case could be made, a case would be brought. The basis for the declination would be rooted only in that which is governed or set out in the principles of federal prosecution.
Given the circumstances of this particular matter, and again this proposition that the failure to prosecute was based on cooperation, and that has been repeated and repeated. Do you think I'd be out of line if I were to ask the Office of the Inspector General and the Office of Professional Responsibility to examine the department's handling in the Bill Allen case?
Well, I mean, that certainly would be, within your discretion to do that. I don't think that that's necessarily warranted on the basis of the decision here. I'm confident that the decision was made, or all these decisions are made on the basis of the appropriate guidelines. I think we can certainly say that with regard to the case that I've not shown an unwillingness to do things that might have been a little controversial, maybe even unpopular. with regard to, you know, matters in Alaska, you know, the Stevens dismissal.
And I appreciate that.
And the decision here, as I said, I'm confident follows, you know, the rules that always apply.
Well, Mr. Attorney General, I appreciate your comments, and I certainly appreciate your actions with the Ted Stevens matter. This is something that has so troubled Alaskans to the core, that you have an extremely high-profile political figure, extraordinarily wealthy, truly abusing in a very terrible way a 15-year-old girl over a period of years. The assumption just is that, you know, the wealthy politician or the wealthy guy with the political connections is able to get away with a level of criminality that simply would not be accepted elsewhere. I will tell you that we are not done attempting to resolve this issue. And I will be asking for your support as we try to pursue this.
Okay, well, I just want to assure you, Senator Murkowski, I have great respect for you. We've always had, I think, good interactions. And the people of Alaska, that you might not agree with decisions that have been made in connection with cases that have come before the Department of Justice, but the decisions had nothing to do with political connections, whether somebody is cooperated in a case or something like that. The decisions were made only on the basis of the facts, the law, and the principles that we have to apply. And nothing beyond that entered into any decisions that we have made. But I understand the concerns that you have expressed and that people in Alaska have, and to the extent that I can, I can't get into much detail with regard to why particular decisions are made in particular cases. But I really do want to assure you and the people of your state that the extraneous things that you mentioned did not factor into that decision making.
We'll keep working with you on this. Thank you, Madam Chairman.